This is the Giraffes Don't Eat Steak podcast, a show that brings you marketing stories, tips, hints, and much more. A treat for those who want to succeed in business or marketers who just want to learn. So what's the number one thing that really annoys me, Alex, about working with new clients?
When they don't take you on a wine farm. No, joking.
Okay.
I'm going to have a hazard a guess here, and I'm going to say when they ignore or don't acknowledge or don't think about the target audience.
You're right. What do they say, Alex? I sell to everybody. How many times have we heard that? Who do you sell to? Oh, no, I'm for everybody. I help everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my number one bugbear.
That's your number one bugbear.
Yes,
yeah, but
definitely is.
It's a bug that comes back time and time again to bite, and it really surprises me actually. Well, okay, it doesn't surprise me when people would say that and they don't have any marketing knowledge. You can't blame them for that, right?
Right.
The most annoying thing is when you're working with marketers who have been working on these projects for a long time and they still don't take it into account. For me, it's just like breathing. It's the 101 of living, and for marketing, it's the 101 for marketing, right? Doesn't matter how far you go through the funnel, you still need to reference that one point of the audience that you've been researching at the beginning of the project. It always ties back.
And it's every single marketing avenue. If you do Facebook ads, they're going to ask you who's your target audience. If you do a website, who's your target audience? If you do events, if you do webinars, if you write a book, whatever marketing you do, go to networking. They're going to say, who's your target audience? Now, most people don't actually know how to answer that question, right? That's what they struggle with. Why? I think they're scared of turning anyone away, especially when you're starting your business, right? Like, oh no, I need all the money I can get. I don't want to turn anyone away.
No, that's a big problem that we all see, and it's understandable, and I think it's probably part of human nature when you're trying to earn money. For example, you logically think, I'm not going to say no to that person, but it's not. But the point is, it's not saying no to anybody, is it?
No.
It's directing your focus. Say someone completely outside of your target audience comes along and says, I'm interested in your product. You're not going to say, actually, no, I can't sell it to you because when I was doing the research earlier with Alex and Erica, it came out that you weren't in my target audience, so I'm not going to sell to you. No, it doesn't work like that. But you just need to have that focus and don't worry about excluding anybody from that focus, because if they are interested in a product, somehow they will get there eventually. But if you're concentrating on the things that make your product, what it solves and the value that adds to somebody.
Absolutely. And the analogy I use is, well, two things. The one is that, well, giraffes don't eat steak, right? That's why we're here on this podcast. But the second one is that human beings, and I'm never popular when I say this, but as human beings, we are all inherently selfish. That's absolute true. Fact. Every part of our brain goes, what's in it for me? Why should I care? And our brains have this auto filter that's doing it automatically. We don't even know that our brains are filtering out stuff that it's going, oh, she doesn't care about this. Nope, she doesn't want to know about that. Classic example, my story, is when I bought my Mini Cooper, right? Never thought about a Mini Cooper and then needed a little run around for the village. Yeah, I love a Mini Cooper. Let's do that. Drove it home from the showroom and suddenly realized everyone in my village has a Mini Cooper. Now, I know for a fact that they didn't all drive to the Mini Cooper shop on the same day as me and drive home with Mini Coopers, which means they always had it. But why hadn't I noticed it? Because my brain had said, not important. We don't need to tell her about that. So it had switched it all out. But then when I drove it home, my brain's like, oh, she likes Mini Coopers. Let's let that message through. Now, if you understand that principle, your marketing has to get through that gatekeeper, right, of your brain, of your target client's brain, which means you have to know them to do the right message,
Yeah.
so that their brain can let your message through.
Yeah. Because if you know Erica, the person who is currently in the market for a runaround, you won't talk about the mini part of the brand or whatever, right? You want to talk about what you need to get out of it. The fact that
Absolutely.
it's small, that it can nip in and out of spaces quickly. It's
Easy to park.
easy to park. Exactly.
Can go fast.
It goes fast. It's got enough space in the car for kids or whatever like that. Those kind of things. Not focusing on maybe the brand element where it's the in fashion thing or blah blah blah, blah. No, because that's not going to attract you. You have your
Exactly.
needs and it needs to solve those.
And someone selling Range Rovers, my brain's not going to let that through, because already it's a gigantic big car that I probably can't drive. So you'll be wasting your time. My brain goes, she doesn't like big cars. Ignore that ad.
Yeah.
It sounds so simple when we say it, Alex. Why does it take people such a long time to get it?
Yeah. It's hard. As a product owner or a developer, it's hard to take your head out of the product,
yeah,
and see it from a third party point of view, basically,
yeah,
and understand, because once you start knowing the inner workings of it and you get really proud of how it connects here and here and the amazing connectivity that it has, you just completely forget what your product is to the person who will be using it. And it's very hard, I think, to take your head out of that. So it's not necessary. So it probably takes quite a lot of training for somebody to do that themselves. But that's why it's far easier sometimes to work with someone who isn't so deep in on the product.
absolutely. Absolutely. And, I believe that our job as marketers is to be that voice of the target client. That's what we are in the business. We need to talk like them, talk to them, share the basics of the product. If it's a technical product, no, turn it into user speak so that they actually understand what it is. Talk to their pain points, what's keeping them up at night that we can solve, right? So being that voice, being that target client. And yes, you're right. I think that takes training. Sometimes a lot of the time, the target client is not us. So we have to become someone else, right? We have to, for whatever that piece of marketing is, think like a different person.
Yeah, that's why I've always said that as a marketer, one of the key characteristics of a good characteristic or personality type to have is someone who's very empathetic.
Agree.
And can really, it's a huge advantage to anybody who has that as a marketer, because
Absolutely.
that you've already beaten half the battle, which is just trying to put yourself in someone's shoes.
Yeah. And curiosity, right? For me, it's about being curious. Why? The why question. Just keep asking why? Or in some books and stuff I've seen, they've said, so what? Right?
So what? Yeah.
So what question until you get to the actual answer.
Yeah. I really love this so what. I've been using it recently to combat some decisions about how to articulate a product, and instead of trying to come up with an argument why you don't think it works, because it's kind of it's not going to work, so because you understand the market, if you just keep prodding them with the but so what, and what does that mean, how does that help me, I don't understand the benefit, so what, and then it really makes someone think, yeah, I'm not really sure.
No,
and that's a good question to have. That's a really good question to have in your mind when you're trying to work out the product. If you think as a product owner, I think if you really start asking yourself the question, what actually am I delivering? to the person? Well, how have I changed their life? Not rather than thinking about, yeah, no, I'm really proud of
How cool is it?
how cool it is. And all of the coding I did was amazing.
So if people struggle, so okay, we believe that it's important to define your ideal client, right? Not your only client, but the person that is best suited to your product and service. Where do we start, Alex? If we can make it easy for people, where do we start?
Also depends on the stage and age of the business. For example, if they've already got a large client base, because sometimes you get early adopt or people who've, just seen the product and started buying it. It's quite a good idea to look at who you currently are already servicing.
Yeah.
And trying to understand what the common theme is through those people. Obviously, when you start a business, there might be some people who are trying to help you out or whatever by buying. Friends, yeah. So you need to be careful of those. So segmenting,
like some of our loyal podcast listeners, the friends.
So you need to filter those out when you're segmenting that audience or your current customer base to understand, make sure they are legitimate customers, and then really try and understand who they are and find that common theme between them.
Yeah, that's a good one. I also like starting with who not, because if you start with the whole universe, there's some nots, right? So children, yes, no, okay. Pensioners, yes, no. So if you start stripping out the knots, like who's not going to use this, who's it not for, your pool becomes smaller and smaller, and then it helps you focus a little bit, right? So I like starting there. Just who's not going to like this, Maybe if it's a technical product, someone like me who is really bad at tech is a not. So you can put that down. Not Erica.
That's also a good way of just flipping it around. And sometimes you can get stuck thinking, oh, but they might be, they might not be. But yeah, just eliminate until you've really narrowed it down, and then work from that one. So I like that one, the who not.
Another way that works well is who do you like working with? If you had to choose one person for the rest of your life, who would they be, right? Because we've had some more difficult clients that maybe we wouldn't choose if they were our only client, right? And then we've had some awesome ones that we would love to work with forever. So you kind of start getting a feel for, if they're too detailed, maybe not detailed enough, too prescriptive, not prescriptive enough, too nitpicky, not nitpicky enough. You know what you like to work with, especially for small business owners, right? If you're the one person that has to deal with the other person, having people you like being with is also a nice, easy way to say, right, if I could find 100 of these people that I love, how joyous would my life be? Rather than 50 nice ones and 50 pains in the butt that I don't want to deal with.
That is true. That's very true. And I feel your shared pain on that one. And then also a really basic one is it B2C or B2B?
Oh, that's the easy one to start with. Yes.
You have already segmented. I think there are some cases where people don't think about that. It makes a huge difference.
It does.
Because the buying characteristics of someone in B2C versus B2B are very different. I mean, you still are talking to a person, but there's kind of a little less emotion in B2B, a little bit more emotionally provocative, perhaps, in the B2C. So that's quite a key one to initially decide. And then, you can completely, like the who not. Okay, we're not B2C. Let's forget about those guys. If I'm B2B, then I shouldn't listen to what my mum thinks about it because she's not in that business. She's a B2C.
Absolutely. And another easy one is geography, right? Are you global? Are you UK only? Are you, is it are people if you're B2B, is it big companies, the size of an AIG or whatever that's going to buy? Or so there's some simple ones, right? Size, geography, spread.
Absolutely. And then the other thing that I was just thinking about it when you were talking earlier around um, understanding what isn't important to somebody. Something that makes a huge difference as well is culture.
Yeah.
So even if it that also does is applied to the geography part that you were saying, but then even within, say, a country like the UK, which is very multicultural, you can even look at those elements. I mean, depends on which sector it is, but particularly for B2C, I think because you have a lot more personal, emotive messaging, sometimes if you know that your product will be potentially more applicable to a certain culture, for example, be a lot more culturally appropriate to that culture in the language that you use. Like we even found that, for example, in when we were marketing into Eastern Europe, just the type of language you use is very different to the type of language that you're using in the States or the UK or something like that. They have very different drivers in terms of what is and isn't important.
No, that's a good one. And then another key one that people don't like to look at, but is affordability, right? Like, surely all the people who are going to have to need payment plans to pay for it, or do you want that? Do you want, a 24-month payment plan versus someone who can just pay you on the spot? I mean, yes, you can do it, but we're talking ideal client, right? So if you're going to have the payment plan, make that as, unless that's your target client, you could make that as the optional, not advertised offer if I find a client I really want to help, rather than the main offer. So affordability becomes a key cutoff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and I know some people do this, some really sleazy salespeople, in my opinion. They convince you that you can pay for stuff on credit card or you can take debt, or I'm not into that at all. I'm a no. So, for me, if someone needs to go into debt to pay for my services, don't do it. That's not
yeah.
but that's me.
Unless you're a loan shark.
Yes, unless you're a loan shark.
Then that is the business you're in.
Or a personal loans consultant in a bank. Yes, that's a different model.
Yeah. I mean, affordability is a huge one because then that also spans down to your pricing strategy, right?
Yeah.
So you need to be thinking about that anyway. So put it up in the top in the first exercise of who is your target. Already map that out. You know what they can and they cannot afford. That's actually a really good one. Looking at like not social classes, but you know what I mean. Like what economic classes. That's a huge one. You need to know which band they sit in, because like you said, that's going to inform both the types of messaging and the types of product you can do, and then the pricing for it.
Yeah, I mean, if you sell high-end champagne, your target market's kind of people who can afford and like high-end champagne, right? You kind of have segmented already. So these are the easy ones we've done, Alex. This doesn't even take a lot of thought, right? You can sit for half an hour and map these ones. Then you can go into the deeper stuff, right? Like, are they married? Do they have kids? Like that's the next level. Well, unless, again, if your product is divorces, then actually maybe you do only want people married, right? There's some easy connections you can make.
Yeah.
But I know people get stuck on, I don't want to only target 52-year-old woman called Mary who live on a farm. I don't think you have to go that far. Yes, having a person and an avatar, because now we're talking avatars. Having an avatar that you can talk to when you're writing your piece makes it a little bit easier. But I don't even think you need to do that, right? As long as you have a grouping and you're clear about the common characteristics. I've worked with clients where that's enough. They didn't have to get down to 25-year-old Mary who has a dog called Scott. You don't have to do that, right?
Yeah. And it's, no, you don't. And it's super helpful to have those high level pieces that you were just talking about.
Yeah.
Even for when I'm working on a project, I have a Miro board. I just love Miro now. It just works so nicely for me. I just have those audiences mapped out at the top of my page.
Yeah.
And any pieces, so I just basically have my ideas board of all copy and everything I have on the Miro board, and I just have that at the top, and I'm still referencing it almost every set of copy that I'm doing, just thinking, does that tick this box? Yes or no? Okay, I maybe need to edit that a little bit or something. It's very helpful, and it shouldn't just be a task that you do and then, okay, now I've remembered it and put it away. I think it's a really good piece of advice to have it visible. Visual. Yeah. So you've always got it there to reference, because even though you might think you're thinking about it, you can start your own biases, can come back in again. But if you have that visual representation there, it can really keep you on track.
Yeah. And I know that's why a lot of marketers are proponents of the avatar, right? The person. But, if that scares you off, you don't have to go that far. At least do your little block of who's in and who's out. It gives you a steer already, right? Because then you can start asking the questions like, if that's my little block, are they on Facebook? Should I be wasting time there or not? Are they on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Are they at networking meetings? So your questions are all about your block. So the smaller it is, the better, obviously. But you don't have to go to the one if you're not comfortable with that.
Yeah, that's true. That's quite nice as well, having those blocks of they are on Facebook, they're not on LinkedIn. And then you just always just basically the rules of your marketing. Don't go on LinkedIn, go on Facebook. Don't go at nighttime, go in the daytime. I saw a marketing plan the other day. My mum volunteers in a cafe and in the hospital, and someone put it together a marketing plan who works in the hospital. Actually, he works in IT, but his hobby is marketing. And he was asked to do a marketing plan by the chairman, and he sent it over, and I had a look at it, and it was kind of like I feel like now I can see when someone has asked ChatGPT to write something, because there's words in there that it always uses that you think, who the hell uses that? Like, foster a relationship.
Yeah. No one talks like that.
Yeah, no one says that. And then obviously we're in the UK, so you don't really see the Z's. We have the S's in the words, and it has all of those, come out all the SMART goals and things like that. And I was like, ugh, my goodness. However, it didn't say. I would even give credit to ChatGPT, because I'm sure it would talk about target audience, but this one didn't. In not one single reference, nowhere at all. And I just thought, stick to your main job, not your hobby.
But also when you're trying to work with, whether it's copywriters or designers or whatever, I'm always nervous when someone doesn't ask me about the target audience, right? Like if you're briefing in a piece of work, whatever that work is, whether it's a copywriter, a web designer, whatever it is, if you're briefing in a piece of work, a video post, whatever, and they don't ask who your target audience is, I'm already like, how do you know what you're doing if you haven't asked? And that's kind of always a red flag for me. Surely you need to know who this is for. Even a graphic, right? Even an image. Someone who hasn't asked, they just don't ask who's your intended audience.
Yeah, completely right. And it's a vital question for anything that is going to be visually, or is going to have, that your audience will have access to. Anything that will touch them in any way, it needs to have been considered in terms of who they are before it's produced. You're right.
Right. So, key message today, Alex. Please take the time to ask yourself, do you know who your target audience is? And there's so many names: ideal client, avatar. It's all the same thing.
Target audience.
Who's the wonderful person that you would want to work with for the rest of your life that wants your stuff?
Yeah.
and can afford it.
Yeah. If I had to pick one of the piece of advice, I would go with the one you were just saying, because it's very easy to visualize that way. Just visualize a real person that you maybe they're a customer of yours already or not, but they're exactly who you want to be selling to because you like them, they need the product, and then just have that person in your mind all the time. You already know them, and pretend you're writing to them. If you don't have much time to do a lot of work on it, then that is a great starting point.
Absolutely. Well, great chatting, Alex. I'll see you again.
Thank you. See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That wraps up this episode of Giraffes Don't Eat Steak. Thanks for joining us. I hope you found value in our discussion and got some new ideas to apply to your own business. Tune in next week for another round of marketing insights and inspiration. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. We appreciate you listening. Catch you next time on Giraffes Don't Eat Steak.